like where Xero was around how incident management. So we had a single team, and it was Auckland and Denver. It was about 9 or 10 people sitting in 2 offices, literally dealing with everything. So whatever fell over, whatever broke, whatever didn't look right, it was our problem to fix, resolve, and manage the entire way through. As you can see, when you grow your business and as more products come through, this is a huge, huge problem, having a single team being the point for every resolution in your business. So, we're just a platform operations team. So we don't know much about development, we don't do much of that, we just manage and fix things. So as, again, things go on and on and on, understanding every crucial piece of the Xero puzzle was harder to do, and becoming more of a business risk and trying to identify when things are wrong, like who am I meant to engage? How am I meant to fix this? Or am I doing the right thing? Because as we all know, certain teams make choices that necessarily may not be right, but in their eyes, it's best for their product. And having a team to try and understand this and keep retaining this knowledge, and as you lose members of staff and keep passing it on, you start getting Chinese whispers and becoming more and more problematic. So what Xero did is we've implemented the SRE team, which is Site Reliability Engineering, which we focused from removing the ability of just, we're here to fix your problems when they break, or pull your servers back down and when they're having a bit of memory problems, or really just bloating themselves because they can. We formed an SRE team. This consisted of the old Auckland operations team, the Denver operations team, and we pulled in the performance engineering team from Wellington. By grabbing these 3 teams, what Xero has done is we've got the triage and troubleshooting as the operations team have. The platform engineering team has the infrastructure and code knowledge around how Xero's architectural decisions and these products are developing the code, and the real-world support experience. So by having everything, we were the team to provide the business with the support they need down the path of incident management and best practices, along with trying to promote SRE's value. But as you all know, you put a new team in, fancy new titles, it's like, hey, SRE, cool. Everyone's like, great. What are you, just another operations team with more people? Sweet. It's like, how do we accommodate this? It's like, so we had to really live the title, the greater operations team. Really, we're trying to drive culture change and trying to push this mindset of, we're not here to fix your problems, we're here to help you fix your problems. We're not going to do it for you, we're not going to teach you. Like, don't have a single instance hosting half of your infrastructure that I'm going to come over and just kick it off the side of the face of the earth, so that's no longer there. It's like, great. So it's making sure teams are like scalable, everything's automated, goes through CI/CD and everything along those lines. We were trying to do that, but yeah, the business was just pushing us back a little bit. So going through a bunch of this, SRE delivered something along the lines of this. I'm not going to go through all of it. It's just a little bit of an idea of where we are. So what I'm delivering today is incident response and post-mortems through the incident management process. But this is the hierarchy of production needs. So if you do implement SRE, basically this is what it looks like. It's a big, nice triangle, and it's got a whole bunch of fancy words and really in-depth stuff. This is from the Google SRE book, so you can grab a lot of information out of that. So, incident management is basically what I'm here today. So how did we do it? What did we do? Where do we even start? So back in the dim, dark ages, we had Flowdoc, which is our chat utility, and we had one channel, and we had 600-odd people in it, and there was chatter constantly of, hey, this is not working, or hey, does anyone know about this? And it was really a fun time when it really hit the fan and you're trying to figure out who's talking about my incident and who's just asking mundane questions for the sake of it. It was frustrating at its finest. It's like, cool, where do I even begin with this? So SRE started looking at, like, how do we manage our incidents? What do they look like? So we started collating data and going through, pulling historical stuff from Flowdoc and really trying to figure out what do we need. So we got through this, took a couple of months, and we built a framework. And the framework consisted of best practices, what have we noticed in each one of these things? And so we started taking things like, oh, we need someone to lead the whole thing. We just can't have a bunch of cowboys running around going, shit, let's fix this stuff. Like, great. And then we started looking into, what do they look like? What things consistently broke? What things fell over? What teams, for example, weren't taking some ownership in some of the things? And what are we lacking? And some of the things we were lacking was postmortems, for example. Going back and looking at what went wrong. And I'm going to touch on this a little bit later on in the thing, but one of the things was looking what went wrong, but also looking what went well. Because as we know, positive reinforcement works a lot better than negative. So basically focusing on things. And then also, across the lot, looking at some of the best practices of some of the things. So best practices in escalating appropriately on the severity rather than going, ooh, I don't really want to wake Jim up tonight, it's 2 o'clock, but our entire accounting infrastructure's down, but we'll deal with it, right? And the final thing about once we've set all of this up is, how do I make it easy for everyone else? Like, I don't want to be here at 2 o'clock every night dealing with someone else's problem. So how do I make it easy for other people to adopt this and use it? So in the terms, we're trying to scale an ops process to a team of devs, QAs, maybe front-end, back-end, who knows, or even product owners. How do we make it easy for them? Instead of trying to just ram an ops process down their throat and hope and pray they actually go, sweet, we'll do it. So this is where we started looking at where we can do it. We all know Lucid charts, flow charts, the whole 9 yards, Confluence, wikis, you name it. You throw something at a board, eventually something's going to stick. But 90% of it, nothing's going to stick to it. So we started looking at how can we make it easy for people? What can we do? So we had an AWS, a little chat bot that queries stuff at AWS and really did nothing bar rack up $2 a month bill. And we're like, oh, let's see what we can do with this thing. A couple of months later, we got our framework that we designed and put it into code. It was a unique experience at the least, trying to put a framework into CoffeeScript. It was one of the most hardest experiences of my life. And trying to integrate that with Slack was even harder. And migrating away from FlowDoc was the worst. But it worked. So by putting our thing into code, built our chatbot called Multivac. Don't ask me why it's named that. Someone arbitrarily pulled that name out of a hat. It integrated with literally everything. One of the good things about it is if it's got a REST API, we've got it hooked up to it. It's awesome. The flexibility of having, putting in code gives you a lot of flexibility. So one of the great problems that we used to have is the dev team's like, oh, I didn't know when they released, and I released at the same time and kind of broke their dependency and brought stuff down and didn't know about it. And it's, oh, but we have this fantastic calendar you should be really looking at. Really, who looks at their calendar halfway through the day? Like, I don't care about a shared one. So by having it in code, gave us ability to share things between teams. For example, we have a release register. Basically, it's an API call to one of our SaaS products that promotes an event. And by having this event in there, when each team releases, we can pull in the data into our bot. Therefore, when we query it, someone's like, oh, my stuff's not working. I wonder what's changed. It pulls in that data and actually publishes it to people. And by having that, if a team comes along going, hey, I've just released something that's not working, it's like, okay, why? They can go and look at the source code and make a pull request and change it themselves rather than relying on us to continually update their stuff. So if they move from Jenkins to Team City or Team City to GoCD, whatever product, all these products have the flexibility of creating this event, and whatever tags they require can be put in our source code, which is really easy. And the final thing is using a bot to do all of this reduces time to restore. And this is a huge thing with incident management. It's not about trying to get Harry to bang out commands left, right, and center to get the quickest restoration. It's a matter of delivering a framework in the fastest possible time, consistently, every time, without the reliability of a human going, do I need to escalate this, or do I need to automatically wake someone up, or man, I've forgotten to email all the POs and product owners that one of our CEOs doing a presentation at XeroCon and our website's gone down and we haven't told them 5 minutes before. Great, that has happened. So it's great for all of that, and it reduces the time for all of this, which is pretty cool. So I think the next slide's demo. Cool. So I'm going to flick to a live demo of this thing, which is going to be hopefully running. Cool. So as I mentioned before, we used to deliver incidents in a single channel on FlowDoc, and it used to be arbitrarily messaged, and it used to be hectic trying to figure out what it is. We've now migrated to Slack, which is, I'd say, better, but it's sexy, half a dozen there. And one of the first things we've accommodated is getting the incident chatter away from things, which is one of the cool things. So I'm going to go through a live incident. I'm going to raise severity 1, and hopefully my phone goes off, and we'll go through that. Cool. Just going through the incident framework. before I kick it off, incident management isn't just about the incident. There's, as I mentioned, post-mortem, so there also is triage work up front. So you can't be expected to fix something if you only go, oh, Jim, this page is down. Like, I need a bit more, because as we all know, the bigger your website gets, each part of the URL redirects to a different cluster of servers somewhere. So I'm going to open up part of our triage process. Hopefully this is working. Yep. Cool. So one of the things that we've done at Xero is an issue report form. It's quite 1900s, a bit old, but it's better than ringing me on my cell phone at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to explain something, and then you waking up an engineer going, man, what did they just say? Like, I've only got their name. Wonder what's broken. So we've accommodated all of this by using a report form. Can you summarize, using some of these things, like summarizing the issue, what URL? These two things may be easier, but when you're dealing with someone from CX, which is Xero's interpretation of a customer support team, these things are vastly different in the world. What's broken? Or can you summarize the issue? I can't send an invoice. What's URL? Google.com. And you just got to accommodate for these things. I use the philosophy of lowest common denominator. You've got to accommodate for it. So can you summarize the issue? My website isn't working. That's fine. Go to Xero.com, and then some of the key fields we use in Xero is like, you know, what's the customer's email address, and each one of those are mapped to an organization ID, which is their key throughout each transaction of what they do. So let's just put an arbitrary one of those in. Again, and this is how we define our severity and scalability. Severity. So how many users have the problem and they're in a particular location cell? Since Xero is aspiring to be a global product, we do have users who outsource their stuff to Russia and China and stuff like that. We've got a lovely world map. We see people are logged in. By using some of our stuff, we just know, where are they? How many users are doing this? And approximately, when did you get the first reported case? Because as we all know, hey, it's broken now. It broke 3 hours ago. It's just we didn't notice it. So it's just trying to give a timeline of when to actually point our start. So we go 5 hours ago. And this is my favorite one. Has anyone been working on the issue? Because I may have bugged one of you and said, hey, can you deal with this? But then I've gone and bugged Ants myself all of a sudden going, hey, can you deal with this too? We're both dealing with the same problem, restarting the same services and wondering why it's not working because I've stopped it just after you've started it. It's a common problem anywhere. It's, you know, has anyone been working on it? So it's cool. We've put a name in there. Ants, anything else to add? Just for the sake of it, we love giving people free text fields because I love filling them out. Kidding. So we've reported a form. Usually it has numbers here, but I've pulled half of them out. So what it does, it populates and pushes stuff to our production channel. It's pretty cool. And then also there's hotline numbers here, which I'm trying to deprecate, but people like phone numbers. Cool. So going in there, as you can see, one of our bots, my bots already picked it up and said, hey, someone submitted, there's a problem. It picks up the user who submitted it, so obviously I submitted it, so it's tagged me in Slack saying, hey Ants, I'll find the on-call person and send an alert. Since we've got our alerting system as PagerDuty for our on-call engineers to get hold of them, it's gone and found out who's on call, which is myself, given you my phone number just in case you feel like ringing me, and sent a PagerDuty alert, which in theory should be smashing my phone right about now. Yep. We acknowledge that. One of the cool things is it gives us all the data about what we filled out in the form. So your on-call engineer no longer has to worry about what did Julie say to me at 2 o'clock in the morning in Spain, some long-winded thing that's broken that made no sense at all. Cool. So now that we've managed to get this right through to our engineer, I just log into Slack and go, cool, let's read this, start an incident. So I tag my bot and I give it 111 start, and that's our key field for incident commands, just to make them isolated away from everything else because it does a lot more than just incidents. I started an incident. So as I said, one of the first things we targeted is changing away from having incident chatter and normal questions and chatter in the same channel. So what it's done is it splits off to another channel in Slack and invites me and makes me the incident controller. As I mentioned earlier, the best practices are an incident controller. So someone who's in control of the incident, who's not, I might not be fixing it, but I'm like the puppet master, which is a term I like using quite a lot, is I'm telling everyone or orchestrating the fix, the resolution of fix. trying to help everyone out. Or I can be fixing it if it's just a real small thing. So one of the cool things by having our bot doing this is I don't need to know the incident management process, and neither do you guys. Like, you can clearly see there, it's like define a severity. It's like, make one. If you ask it about, if you go help severity, for example, I won't do it here, it'll tell you the severity listings and charts, but that's all defined per organization of what you deem is what. So we're going to go severity 1, and hopefully this doesn't page everyone. Cool. So what it's done is there's a green tick box underneath the command I've just run, which is our bot acknowledging it's seen your command and run it. And what it's done now is it's recommending that we run a communications lead. So based on our severity, it opts in and out for communications or not. So for example, 1 and 2, we need a communications lead, which can be our CX person, which talks to our customers and internal, because we've got social media teams, customer support ticket teams, and also partners and everything that need to know what's happening with our infrastructure if Xero goes down or part of core functionality is down. So in this case, it's like assign a communications lead. So usually what we do is we ping our CX team. So it's like, I've sent them an email, because that's the method they've chosen. Don't ask me why. And they'll be here shortly. And if they don't respond in the next couple of minutes, I can click the hyperlinked last roster text, which will bring up one of our Google sheets telling us who's person meant to be bugging and the backup person. It's a bit 1900s method, but who knows, hopefully they change soon. For the sake of it, I've made it email, the main production flow, saying, look, CX text required, please run this command. So if we change this command in code, it's going to change it in the email, so it's good for them. So I'll assume this role for now. Cool. Now, for the purpose of this demo, because I couldn't get it working any other way, I've broken the communications command, which in theory would usually update our public status page saying Xero has a problem and ask me for a title for it and a little snippet of a message. So for example, Xero.com's down, and we understand your frustration and please have some patience with us. We're working hard to resolving this issue. Like really just updating our status page instead of having to log into all these third-party systems. And the next part of it, which I've stopped as well, is we'll automatically page our senior management team. So that team consists of a few team leads and our C-level management, and that's to really hone in on we need to drive this and really trying to get some ownership across the product, because as you know, as your severity scales up, you need to start getting more people involved because it's a bigger impact. Moving on, it's saying state the affected systems and customer impact. So we all know what this one is. I'm just going to copy this because I'm lazy. Cool. So we have two commands that we run here. We use a Yammer update and a status update, which you can see it's just popped up there. So we run status updates for internal, which will keep a timeline of all of our incident, all of our work that's done. So we can go like, oh, Ants has restarted this, or we've just restarted an EBS, or targeted some EBS volumes, or deleted them, or done some fun stuff. And then a Yammer update, which obviously goes to Yammer, which I think you all should be aware of, which is a communication platform. And that's for our social media team. So we do have teams on Xero that don't use Slack, which is really weird, but they choose to use Yammer instead. So that we just made a little API and said, here, which you can see if I load my Yammer, it will start feeding data to it. It's really, whatever I feed it, it posts it there, which is pretty cool. It's not the most prettiest looking thing, but who knows. And I'll go make a status update. Cool. Again, each time you do a status update, it says do a Yammer update. It's trying to couple the two together, but also trying to keep them decoupled at the same time. Because obviously, when you're talking to social media teams and your customer support team, they don't know that you're restarting an EC2 instance because the underlying hardware's got problems. They have no clue. They're like, whoa. So you give them the plain English. One of our servers is restarting, please wait. Kind of stuff like that. Then moving through it, it's like declare an outage. This command won't work today because I've broken it on purpose, but as I mentioned, it'll start paging senior management, going public with our status page, SMSing 3 people that have opted in for platform notifications, and then like the whole 9 yards of like trying to get a hold of people. So let's just skip that one for now. I'm just going to bypass some of it. Cool. So as you can see, if I declared an outage, basically it'll tick it off on the list. Going through all of this, it's just managing the alert. So you've got Incident Commander, which is now the puppet master, the communications person who's dealing with communications, and whoever else needs to be involved. For the sample of this, for this example, I'm going to just page myself because I need another on-call engineer. Let's say our upstream proxy is broken because the data engineering team is sending too much stuff through it. Hopefully that works. Cool. So I can page people from inside the incident, which is one of the core functionality we use. Because opening your phone or opening the PagerDuty app is really cumbersome. Trying to get hold of people or trying to ring them, it's just a pain in my backside. So we can page teams. My phone is having a field day. You can page teams. So now I've just got an alert on my phone saying, hey, your assistant is required within the Slack channel. And we can even, at the end of this, we can give it some quotes as what we want. That's one of the other functionalities. And the final one before I wind this incident down itself is my favorite, bugging people. So as you know, when you're all working on an incident, you have some engineer works on it and goes, oh, it's 12 o'clock, I'm going to go down the road and get some lunch, as people do. So I shoved in this gnarly command that goes and finds people's mobile numbers from our HR systems. They haven't signed off on it yet, but what they don't know won't hurt them. And so it'll email people and it'll SMS you going, hey, come back. And yeah, my phone, you won't be able to see it, but I'm getting SMSs from it all. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. I love it. I use it all the time and people hate me for it, but it's cool. Cool. So let's say we fixed it and I've updated it all and done all that fun stuff. I'm going to wind this incident now. So what it does is I tell our bot that's over. One of the cool things is we all want to know is how long it took us to fix it. In this case, it took 7 minutes, 50.2 seconds. I hate that rounding, but it's there. And what it does is it'll automatically archive this channel. So we no longer have stale channels lying around in the place everywhere. It gives us the users who are working on the incident and their emails, because we know Google Calendars isn't the greatest thing for usernames. And gives us next task, start a post-mortem. Because, we all want to know why it broke and go back through it. Now, it's going to complain about Xero, but just ignore that, it didn't exist. So I've run the post-mortem command, and what it does is we use Xero, because we're an Agile company, and it tracks our incidents and starts creating all these tasks and subtasks. I'm off the network at the moment, so it won't connect to it. But also it creates a Google Doc with all the information that we've done from the incident, which I'll open up in a minute when it decides to make it in a second. Come on. Hopefully. If not, I'll go and find one. Did it work? Yes, it did. Why aren't you working? It does take a minute or so sometimes when Google Docs does not want to connect. All right, we'll come back to that one. I'll bring the Google Doc up and actually, I might be able to grab one. We'll ignore the Google Doc for now. I'll wing it and explain it. So what's pertained in the Google Doc would be the incident title, how long it's taken, people who are in the incident, and then we go through things like, since our bot can't fill these things out, it's like summary, trigger, resolution, impact, and all these things that our bot at the moment can't figure out. So these are things that we, as the engineers or the team that's responding to it, fills it out. And then we go through things like what went well, which is the first thing we put on our list, is what went well. Because positive reinforcement, again, is the key to resolving things instead of focusing on the negative. What went well, where we got lucky is like, hey, our customers didn't notice that we half went down. Great. Yeah. And then what we didn't do too well, like we had no monitoring, but it's all right, no one noticed. It's cool. And then the other stuff is all the supporting information. So the Slack channel, the Jira board, the Google Doc, the responders list, and any supporting documentation for this bot will pick up if you post Datadog links and some of our Akamai, which is our CDN error codes, it'll start collating a data list, a supporting information list at the bottom, which is pretty cool. So realistically, I just open up this document that gets presented and hey presto, it's all there. I'll try find one at the end, but we'll just move on for now because it broke. Cool. So where to from here? So more integrations. So we're building a report card system as like school is like a report card, so we can call out teams that aren't doing stuff the right way, which is great because I love it, but they don't. Change tracking. So currently it tracks changes, but we want to get to the point where change tracking is a fact of when this instance did something. For example, it lost network connectivity because someone changed it from IPv4 to IPv6 for some weird arbitrary reason, because they do. And incident alert portal, so collating incidents over the last 24 hours and populating it in a channel. So our team, like Denver, will find out what's happened in the last 24 hours instead of that whole handover email. I don't know what you guys do and girls, but back when I was in the other companies, we used to email the on-call team saying, hey, this has happened in the last 24 hours, and everyone just filed it in the I don't care pile. And what alerts team have had in the last 24 hours? So what I mean by that, Xero lives and breathes product teams develop, support, and maintain their own code. So me being on call, I may not have to know their code, but I'm their escalation. So it's just trying to see what alerts they've had over the last X amount of value, so I can then go and look and help them remediate appropriately. My favorite, because I'm an SRE, is high availability. This thing lives in its own little pet server at the moment, but we're looking at moving it to Dockerization, using like Amazon's ECS clustering and stuff like that to provide some high availability, because we're an SRE and we should be eating our own dog food, really. And then caching. So as you experienced, the Google Doc stuff is an asynchronous request and relies on stuff actually working. So putting some caching in front of it, so we use like a cluster or something to, instead of making a request to PagerDuty to get the people on call or find them, it's all kept in a database. All our AWS calls, our Datadog, which is our alerting system for like our release management, and the Google Doc that didn't work in there as well. So we can put things in a cache and have a worker do the work for us rather than having an unreliable presentation. Cool. Oh, wrong button. So one of the last things to wind it down is incident management isn't a one-stop shop. You don't just set it up, walk away and go, sweet, my job here is done, which most operations team do. They're like, sweet guys, we're good. It's an organically, is the word I'll use, growing framework. With the more incidents you're exposed to and the more you actually go and look at them, you build a beautiful framework that best suits your needs. Xero's big philosophy, like one of our values, is #beautiful, and that's what our framework is. It's really great for us to do, and we highly promote postmortems from within our teams. I can't promote it anymore by triage all the way through to postmortems. We've learned so much from it.